Greetings! So in today's video I will be taking a look at this palette from Schmincke. This is a new release, well, recent enough release, and it's quite interesting for many reasons. First of all, we have this tin shape, which is a bit bigger than the regular tin shapes we see for 12 half pans. Also, very obviously, this one has a beautiful print on the top, and it's completely black on the bottom. So yeah, the print is really interesting because most palettes are black. So when you have a few of them, it's kind of hard to tell them apart. But this one, quite unique. In this palette, this is the packaging. I'm sorry, this is the second time I have to film this. So it's already unwrapped, but that's the only sort of information about the palette when you look at it when it's wrapped. You can see it has 3 primary colors, it has 3 complementary colors, and it has 3 dark shades, which is a very interesting selection of colors. So the palette itself. First of all, the lid is really heavy. I will have to check with my other palettes, but I think this is heavier than their regular palette of this size. It comes with split into wells, and you have the Schmincke logo there too. And then you open this flap. This flap is thinner metal than this one, but it stays quite straight. It doesn't bend down too much if you look at it. So that's good for mixing. And it has 8 smaller mixing areas. The set comes with a color chart that you fill in yourself. And then you have the paints. The paints come in this removable tray. You gotta be super careful when removing these trays because the edges are not finished. And if you're not careful, they can be quite sharp. Think paper cut, but much worse. And same advice goes for the edges of this tin, because this is not finished either. I would be very curious to know why Schmincke doesn't really do anything about this, because they have other palettes, not this size, but other palettes that have rolled edges here, like this kind of rolled edge, but on this part too. And this tray is usually sharp, but the thing is that you don't really handle the tray itself. It usually goes in there and stays in there. So that's not really a bother. Let's take it out again. Look at the paints. So the paints we have in this set, we have lemon yellow, magenta, and helio cerulean as the primary triad. Then we have ultramarine violet, permanent green olive, and saturn red as the complementary colors. And finally we have perylene violet, Payne's grey bluish, and perylene green for the dark shades. I'm really curious to swatch these out together. That's a really interesting selection. So let's get to the swatching. For the swatches here, I prepared a piece of watercolor paper with 9 rectangles and made it so part of the swatches was black watercolor ground. I usually do this to see if a paint is transparent or opaque, and to which level. As usual with this brand of paints, the pans were super easy to re-wet and they reactivated beautifully. The colors are smooth and very easy to use. I've tried with black ink, Sharpie, and other waterproof black pens, but I feel like the watercolor ground makes for a more useful test. I will also be painting a mixing chart to see how this unique selection works together. I'll be doing it off screen though, because I don't like doing mixing charts and will do it in segments to stay sane. With the swatches dry and the tape removed, we can see exactly how these paints are on a white and a black background. Most of these 9 colors are transparent. Yellow and orange have some opacity to them. I kept the wrappers and packaging sticker and glued them to the back of my swatches to keep all that info together. For the chart, I did half at regular strength for the mixes, and the other half with those same mixes, but diluted. There are many interesting neutrals that happen with these colors. Also, since the ultramarine violet is the only granulating color of the selection, we can find some texture only in the mixes featuring that paint. Being able to mix primary colors with the secondary colors makes for really nice variants, like the yellow-orange from mixing yellow and orange, or the yellow-green when mixing yellow and green. The colors mixed with perylene violet, Payne's grey bluish, and perylene green are all more muted or even neutral. To explore this color selection, I prepared a drawing. It's inked, the edges are taped off, and I used masking fluid to protect the edges of the character while I set up the background colors. I wanted to paint a general color gradient to give some setting to the background without having to go into details. I made sure to let the layers dry before painting on top of them. It wasn't a long painting to do in terms of actual painting time, but I had to let it dry a lot, so it ended up taking more time and it required planning. I could have hastened the drying process, but I didn't want to try to blow dry the masking fluid, since heat is usually not great on masking fluid. When the background was done, I removed the masking fluid and painted in the character. That was also done in many steps due to drying time. When everything was done and dry, I really love how the painting turned out. The only thing is that I noticed a few lines on the face, and I think it might be from when I removed the masking fluid, or when I drew and erased the line art. Maybe I scratched the paper a bit when I was doing that. So I'll have to be more careful about that in the future. It could also be a flaw in the paper, but I can't really know at this point. Anyway. I really love Schmincke paints, and these were on par with their usual great standard. Nice selection of color, really fun tin. If you want to see it in more details, I'll have scans of the painting and swatches on my Patreon. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.